Can you tell us a little bit about Design to Launch and what the product started, what you thought it was going to be, your vision for it originally, but then how it ended up as an enterprise piece of software? Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it. And it's great to see some familiar faces in the audience, like Kathleen hiding back there. So a little bit about Design to Launch. Design to Launch is a workflow solution. We focus on helping pharmaceutical companies, consumer packaged goods companies, try to manage the routing and approval of packaging and labeling. I'm hesitating because, well, it's interesting. It's really more interesting on how we built the company and how we got the funding and how we exited. But so the company, yeah, it focuses on packaging and labeling and the routing and approval process for it. So, for example, our customers were Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer Pharmaceutical, Bausch & Lomb, Kraft Foods, all of these well-known brands that all of you have heard of before. And it actually takes a lot in order to launch a new product and to get artwork and to get everything approved and the ingredients, and it hits all of the departments from legal to marketing to sales, etc. And when they're dealing with packaging, you're dealing with heavy native graphic files. So the idea of emailing a file around and trying to get approval, you can't do that with a native file. So the bottom line is that we created a workflow solution before anybody else in the marketplace at that time to address this issue, and it was great. We spent a lot of time educating the market on why it was important, why they wanted a solution instead of only email or Excel spreadsheets. But once we started to educate the market, then actually other competitors came in, and by the time we exited, and right now today, we have probably between 5 to 7 very well-known competitors in this space. But to answer another question, you know, when you're starting something, we started it in 1999. I started it with my brother, and it was during the dot-com phase when everybody thought all they needed to do was write a business plan and you'd get $5 million in funding. So we thought, well, we can write a business plan. We didn't think about executing the business plan. Mm-hmm. So we quit our jobs and we started this in 99, and then we incorporated in 2000. And when we actually went out for funding, that was after the dot-com bomb. I see you shaking your head. And it wasn't as easy to get funding as we thought it would be. So that was kind of a part of the journey. But when we started it, we thought we would start it as a website, right? So all of your companies go through iterations, and we all need to be ready for that change. So it started as, hey, let's help cosmetic companies procure packaging components so that they could get their products to market faster. So we thought we would almost be a vendor and a website, and we were going to be called stockcomponents.com, and people would come and they would match this cap with this bottle and they'd launch it. Well, we quickly realized that that wouldn't really work because suppliers should come together as a conglomerate, and then why would they come to us? So we had to change our model from a website to a software company. So we had to move with that change. And we went from addressing the cosmetic industry, which really their margins are so great they don't care how fast they get things to market, to a pharmaceutical and other areas that were FDA regulated. And we almost needed to sell, I hate to say this, but almost based on fear, right? You have to be in compliance. You're regulated by the FDA. This is an important solution so that, you know, you don't have issues. So we went through several iterations. It was certainly fun. And then just one little additional thing before we go on to other questions and other aspects of it. We got the idea because we were consulting into the marketplace, and the Body Shop that makes the lotion and the hand creams, which is out of the UK, called us and asked if we could do a consulting job to help them launch a Christmas launch for them. A couple different SKUs, the cranberry line, the chill line, help launch it in the US. And we thought, sure, absolutely, that would be great. As we were doing that job, there were so many problems developing and launching their packaging. That's what helped us think of this idea. One example, they had a clear bottle with some amber liquid inside and a clear label, right? Clear label, clear bottle, amber liquid inside. So the font and all the color for the printing was originally supposed to be white so that you could see the ingredients. Well, the VP of marketing called over our head to the printer and somehow thought it would be a good idea for the printing on the clear label to be amber. Well, hello. Now you don't know what the ingredients are until you've used all of the ingredients inside, right? You're amber, it's clear, you can't see it. So these mistakes would happen over and over again, and there was no accountability as to, who made the mistakes. Anyway, so we found a need, we started it as a website, we went with the flow to switch it to software, and then we went through lots of fun experience raising funds, and on the verge of bankruptcy 3 times, and then a fantastic exit, which I think we'll hit as we go through.
So,
am I speaking too quickly? My father tells me I speak too quickly. He says he can't understand me. You gotta, catch up with the times. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, we have things to accomplish.
So, yesterday when we were talking, you told me a great story about your Springboard Association. And so I said to Alison, I said, you're a Springboard alumni, right? And she said, well.
I think I am. I might have bypassed the whole learning process within Springboard. But what that question was prompted, I love Springboard. Springboard, I love you. Amy Millman, everybody, they're fantastic. And I'm actually speaking at a caucus down in Washington, D.C., I think next week or the week after, to a large group, which is terrific. But one of the questions that came up was, let's take 1 second on funding, and then a second on some craziness. So when we went out to fund it, my brother thought it would be a good idea, instead of me using the money I had saved to buy a house and down payment, that I should put that into the company. So he's a good salesperson. So when we started the company, in all honesty, we probably put in about $150,000 between my brother and myself. And that was a combination of us putting in cash or paying for things along the way. We also skipped salary probably for about 3 years. At the time I didn't have kids and he didn't, so So we probably put in about $150,000, and with that we were able to get the prototype and the front end, and then we shipped the back end to India to get the back end done. We got things rolling and we got our first client. Then we went and we got friends and family. We probably raised another $150,000 of friends and family, so probably about $300,000 during that phase. We then went out for venture capital funding. And when we went out for venture capital funding, that took us much longer than we had ever imagined. So everybody going through that phase, right, just plan on that taking a while. We ended up getting funded by a Connecticut-backed venture company, which was Next Generation Ventures. Now we have Connecticut Innovations. They're wonderful. We love you. So Next Generation Ventures, Fourth Wall Ventures, and One-to-One Marketing. And we did it through networking. We knew people. We asked for meetings. Now, granted, we pitched a lot more than those, but those were the ones we ended up pulling together. There was a fourth one who came in as well, and at the last minute they fell out. That always happens. Funny note on Next Gen Ventures, on things, Next Gen, hopefully they don't see this, but it's funny. So, things to be aware of. When we got the commitment for the money, they said, we need to put in somebody who's been there, done that. Experienced CEO, because the .com issue just happened. We want somebody who's been there, done that. They said, go find a CEO who can run this business. We went and we found one. And we brought them back to the VCs. We said, here's the person, where's our money? They said, oh, we really like this person. We said, yes, we do too. And then they offered him a job. Yes, you did. And then we had to start our search all over again. Meanwhile, we're freaking out because, we don't have any money, and I'm literally ducking the landlord above the subway building in Stamford. Every time we'd hear him come up the stairs, I'd be under the desk, and they'd say, oh, she just went out. He was great. We loved him, Peter Nanos. So that was tough. So that happens sometimes. So I think we actually got the money from them because they felt so guilty that they really hurt us. We found another person, they came in, everybody was terrific, and we got that funding. So, $300,000 originally, about 2.5 from venture capitalists. We did put in a CEO that they had requested. It ended up not working out so well, and we ended up recapitalizing. So to get to Springboard, which is tied into one of the things, we were on the verge of bankruptcy a few times, and I went up and I pitched at Springboard. And a woman by the name of Stephanie Hanbury Brown, who runs Golden Seed Ventures, was there listening. She saw us, and she made an appointment to come in and meet with us. We were not doing well at the moment, and evidently I had blown her off a few times. And somebody calls to say, this woman is here to meet with you. So I said, I'll take a shower. I rushed in, and there was a gentleman in our company at the time that was trying to kind of buy it. And Stephanie only wanted to speak with me, which was great because she was terrific. And so she's from Australia, and she said, oh, do you have a cup of tea? Because she knew that we didn't in the office. And I said, no, I don't. She said, well, let's go get a cup of tea out to the office. So I went out of the office, and she said, I don't like this guy, and what is he doing, and I want to back you. And so in the diner, we started to call our venture capitalists. I said, I think we have somebody. We spent the weekend at her house working out a deal to recapitalize the company in 2005 to make the company move forward. Everybody came on board. She was fantastic. I literally had been under the covers thinking, oh, we're going to go bankrupt. And we pulled the deal together. And she was fantastic. And it was thanks to Springboard and me presenting there. You have to present everywhere. You never know when you're going to find the person. And it was thanks to her for coming in. And during that weekend, it was funny, one of our investors was like, oh, you're from Australia? I don't know if we can work with an Australian. Funny guy, love him. She says, oh, well, we're going to work it out. She was great. So we did. We raised $300,000, and then we went around to other venture capitalists and angels around New England, and we raised some more, and then we moved toward our exit. But love Springboard, and you never know where you're going to find that money.
And by the way, Stephanie Hanbury-Brown had been the chief operating officer for equities at JP Morgan when I was there, so she was not exactly someone that was just to sneeze at. So quite an accomplished woman. So talk about the importance of connections.
Yes.
And that was something else I learned through Josh Henderson with Springboard. He said, I can tap any one of our alumni and they'll be there for you. I was like, really? And he said, absolutely. And he did, which was so amazing. So we're also hoping that part of this community that we're evolving grows the same way. But talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think that, connections are absolutely critical. Warm leads into anything, whether it's a warm lead into a sale, warm lead into raising money, warm leads for anything is very helpful. So keeping your network alive, is terrific. For us, when we raised our funds, it always ended up being a networked opportunity that ended up funding us. Either we knew somebody, but it was helpful to have a network and to get our advisory board when we first pulled together our advisory board, and to get our board of directors when we pulled together our board of directors. So, through Springboard we found Stephanie, and then with Stephanie, she went on the road with me to present to a lot of other angel groups to fill out the round. We did a 300,000 round to a 700,000 round, and having a network of people and then a warm lead really helped because people were able to follow her. They saw that she was going to invest. Springboard's a great group, Golden Seeds is a great group, and any other ones that you guys have connections into. And then keep those networks alive, because Springboard helped me several years ago, and here I'm going to speak with them next week, and I get new entrepreneurs that call me and ask for opinions and advice, and at some point I'm going to start another company, and I'll need to go back to these same investors and ask if they'll support us again. So, very important.
Talk about persistence.
Yeah. So I mentioned that I started the company with my brother, and we always joked because a lot of people will give up in the first year. They have an idea, they think it's great, they'll give it a year. If you can get past the first year and the second year and keep it going, the chances of success grow, astronomically. The people who fold in the first year, that's a large number, so it's great to get past it. So we always teased and we said, well, perseverance is absolutely critical, and I'm not going to be the person who goes back to tell mom and dad that we're folding and we've lost their money, and he wasn't either. So we just kept going, and literally we did, as I mentioned, we were on the verge of bankruptcy 3 different times, and we just kept going. The first time we were on the verge of bankruptcy, I got a telephone call, I was saying this yesterday, I got a telephone call from our office building, and they said, the company above you is having a fire, and it turned on the sprinkler system, and your office got wet. I said, score! That's like amazing. Go in, our office is wet. I mean, we didn't lose anything. We called the insurance company. We said, we have very important papers. I got really wet here. We need to make a claim. They did. They came down. They did the claim. Everything was above board. And we got $70,000. $70,000. We thought, wow, that's an extra, 3 months of payroll or whatever it was at the time. And that was amazing. And so we went again. The next thing we knew, we were on the verge of bankruptcy, and there was a company that was trying to acquire us at the time. And the next thing we knew, since we still had our doors open and we were still going, we got a phone call from the company, an employee that said, this other company stole your source code. They came in, they said they wanted to buy you, they decided that they're not going to. They took your source code, and now they're building their own product. And I said, wow, why are you calling me? He said, because I thought it was unethical, and I went to senior management to say, we can't do this to a small, Connecticut company, it's wrong. He said, and they fired me. So I'm angry. I said, let's flip off that anger. So, we called a lawyer and we said, we have a witness and they've stolen our source code, what are we gonna do? We ended up settling, and I think we got like $300,000. And we said, score, and off we go again, you know what I mean? Now, when we settled, we did have to give them the rights to continue to use it, and believe it or not, they are still in the marketplace today, but they did try to acquire us a few times after that. And so we moved on again. And the last bankruptcy was another company trying to acquire us. It didn't work out. I pitched, you heard Stephanie Henry Brown. She happened to be in my office. We love her. And we put a deal, together, and that saved us on that final thing. But if we didn't keep going, and if we didn't believe in what we were doing, and we didn't believe in our customers, and believe that if we got to the next week, we'll get to the next week, we would have closed our doors. And instead we didn't. Instead we found a great venture capital, group, and we found a great partner in Kodak, and we built it and they bought us, and it was terrific for everybody.
Thank you very much. So I want to open it up to the audience and just to see if there's any questions for Alison. And I think that's an amazing story and very inspirational for our entrepreneurs. But and we have a microphone up here.
And I love questions. And we have a little extra time, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. The 2 words of the day, right? I've been thanking everybody all day. Well, anyway, thank you for being here. My questions are about your almost exits. You had a couple opportunities to exit. I wanted to know why you elected not to at those times.
Absolutely. That's easy. They decided not to. So it didn't really work out. But I think when you start a company and you take money from investors, there needs to be a plan to build value and then to have an exit, right? Because the investors want their money back. They're trying to do you a favor, but they really want their money back. So for us, the first time I mentioned they took our source code, that clearly didn't work out very well for us. But interestingly, when they really wanted to buy us, and at the decision point in both previous times, because something will always come up, at the decision point, the opportunity went to the board, and at that time, that company was acquiring or merging with another company. And so the board was very busy worrying or working on a merger and didn't have time for a small acquisition. That's why that one fell through, and I guess the business people thought that they would just take the source code and move on. It didn't work out. The second time, again, we went up to the board, so it's never a done deal. Be careful on how much information you give out in the beginning. Always have a non-disclosure and a confidentiality agreement, because that is the basis of what we were able to say. You took our source code and we had a confidentiality agreement. So the second time we went up to the board of directors, and that time it turned out that their 2 largest competitors were merging, and the board of directors thought, we don't have time to focus on acquiring a company. We have a bigger problem. Our 2 competitors are merging. And so you never know what's going to happen. Now I will say on our final exit, which was fantastic, we did, hopefully nobody from Kodak is watching this, we did go out and test the waters to see if there were other companies that wanted to acquire us at that time, because we felt if we were only married to one company and we were going down the path only with one, we could get hurt like we did the previous 2 times. So we did quietly go, and we did have 2 other offers at the same time. So we did have 3 offers to review, which was terrific. And we ended up choosing the one that was the best for the investors and the best for the employees. There were other companies that were selling and at the same time letting all their employees had to go. We wanted one where all the employees would stay. We'd stay in Stamford. They'd all get, great bonuses and their options. And so we chose the one that really worked the best for everybody, but we kept them all going until the end.
You talked a lot about your financing and your exit strategy. Can you tell me a little bit about how you actually grew the business? You said you had the one customer. Then how did you go to 10? Was it word of mouth? Was it marketing? What got you going?
I would say a lot of phone calls and a lot of networking. And our sales cycle, there was many times that it took 2 years. So, we would find somebody on our advisory board that knew somebody at Johnson & Johnson, and we would start to make phone calls into Johnson & Johnson. We'd get the first meeting, we'd get the second meeting. So typically it was through an advisory board or through somebody that we knew that got us the first meeting, or calling into the right person. For us it was VP of packaging or VP of marketing. But the process would take a long time, and Johnson & Johnson is a good example. It took us 2 years to sell them. They said, this is so advanced, it's so great, but our company, we're not there yet. So, well, when you get there, make sure you put money in the budget and we'll come back. And then we would often have to do, a trial or a prototype with them. But connections are very important. They won't get the deal done, but they'll get you in front of the right person to get the idea going.
I'm curious about, in your exit, first of all, are you still involved? And what role do you have? And did you have to sacrifice any core aspects of the actual business in that exit? I mean, are they still, is the integrity still there for the same product and same brand?
Yeah. So I am not there any longer. We exited in 2008, and we did that we were partners with Kodak for 2 years, and as partners with them, we started to grow the business. And then they came down and they said, listen, we really want to acquire you. Are you open to that? And that's how we moved through with the acquisition. They were partner first. So your partners are often a terrific exit, for you. We committed, my brother and I as founders, committed to remain there for a minimum of 2 years. And so we ended up staying for 4. At the end of the 2 years, we were really committed to our employees and committed to the customers, and we felt that it was too early to leave. We were afraid if we left that things might crumble. But the company is still there, and we have, we've left people in charge, but we left. And I'll tell you, as much as I love the customers and the company and everything, if I had left after 2 years, I think that would have been fine too. Because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And going in and working for a large corporation that is trying to tell you when you can spend money and when you can't spend money and which strategy you can implement and which strategy you can't, for an entrepreneur that becomes difficult. So in hindsight, in all honesty, I think it probably would have been better if I had just chosen to leave after 2 and start the next thing. I stayed long, and I left 1.5 years ago. And so I'm calling myself on my sabbatical, and I went to Italy and lived there for 6 months and just had another kid. And now I need to think it's September, summer's over, and I need to think about, where I'm going. But yeah, 2 years would have been fine.
I think Julie's next with
here.
or Leslie.
Can you talk a little bit about how you built your team, and particularly on the technical side? Because it sounds like you and your brother neither were technical.
Absolutely, you're right. We weren't. I remember sitting in my father's living room and I said, we're starting a software company, I don't know anything about software. So we did it through networking. People that, we started with networking. So the very first person that we hired was my best friend's brother that I knew just took a website class, and he could help us build the front end and get us going. So we started through, friends and friends of friends, and that's how we first started it. Eventually, we did hire a headhunter. So we did hire a recruiter to really help us filter through and get people in the door. And when we were building our team, I was not averse to sponsoring people for visas and sponsoring, anybody and everybody. So we had a very multicultural team, and I think a lot of people came to us, maybe they couldn't get jobs elsewhere because of, paperwork. And, we had an immigration lawyer on hand, and we helped people get here. And they're still with the company today and still thankful and everything else. But so recruiters.
I had
question about how patient the investors were during those times, because obviously they're looking for an exit, so you've had a few sort of near exits that didn't work out, and were you getting a lot of pressure, or what was their reaction?
You know, I find investors to be great, really. If you make them a part of your team and you guys are all on the same team, they're typically really great. You know, they know the ins of the business, they know what's going on, they know what's happening with your sales. They never questioned whether or not we were working hard and smart. So that was never an issue. We did have to recapitalize, and that was difficult, and I'm still very close with all the investors, and I appreciate all their help and their support in doing that recapitalization. And it turned out to be fine. You know, they wanted to put different leadership involved, and so who's to say that if we hadn't had that other leadership, maybe we wouldn't have had to recapitalize. One never knows. But they worked with us on that recapitalization, and they ended up making a lot more money, 6 to 10-fold back of what they would have gotten if they didn't let us recapitalize at that time. So it worked out, and they supported us. The final round, we were able to exit within 18 to 24 months of when we received the money. So then they were all on cloud of 9. And so I do a lot of speaking engagements for them because they're excited. So it was different times.
All right, well, I think that wraps it up. I thank you so much.